Hello, Rob Cornish here. I hope you're doing well and welcome to this free video on search trends. Now, there's nothing to buy here. It's all completely free, as I say, and I just wanted to make this video for you really, just because I think it's really valuable information that you can use an action in your own business, whatever stage you're at. And secondly, just to say thank you for being a subscriber. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, search trends should be a critical part of your market research. So before you go and set up any websites at all, you should always check the search trends, in my opinion, and it's something that I do for all my niche sites. I always make sure that I check the search trends. So I'm going to show you in this video exactly what I do and how I do it. So I'm going to use two free applications or websites to do this. The first one you're looking at right now is called Google Insights, and if you just do a search for Google Insights in Google, you'll actually come to this page straight away. So very straightforward to find it. And the second application is called Google Trends. Now, Google Trends and Google Insights are actually very similar. They kind of do the same kind of thing, but there's some subtle small differences. So in this video I'm just going to go through those and show you how I use each of them. Now let's jump back to Google Insights and look at a real example. So just for the purposes of example, and I'm not by any means suggesting that this is a great niche that you can make lots of money in or that you should go into at all. This is just an example, but I'm going to pick the search term stainless steel juicer. Okay, so let's imagine we were looking to launch a website, say, I don't know, stainlesssteeljuicer.com, for example. Well, we could we could put some content on there. We could maybe do product reviews of different kinds of stainless steel juicers. We could have maybe an Amazon store, add that in so people could browse and purchase products. Or we could even put some advertising on there. So we could put, say, Google AdSense ads on the website. Those three options would be very straightforward to do, and they could be great ways of actually monetizing the website. But anyway, that just gives you an idea of why we might look at this. I'm not suggesting you go into this niche at all because I haven't done the rest of the research. So again, it's just for an example. But let's put that in. So we've got stainless steel juicer in the search terms box, and I'm going to click search here. Right, so the first thing that you see is this interest over time chart, and this goes from 2004 right the way up to where we are at the moment, which is January 2011 as I'm filming this video. Now, what we're looking for here, before you go into any niche or set up any blogs or websites, you are looking for either a stable trend or, even better, a rising trend. So a rising trend would indicate that more and more people are searching for this and it's getting more and more popular, which is obviously a great thing if you're looking to launch a website in that niche. Now here we've actually got, for stainless steel juicer, more of a stable trend, haven't we? I mean, there are little variations which you always see, but generally speaking it looks fairly stable. And look, you can see Google even provide an actual prediction, a forecast for what the trend is going to be over the coming year. So incredible application, really useful. So we would be happy with this if we were looking to go into this niche, basically. The other thing to mention is just the regional interest down here. I always like to check this just to see where the geographical interest is actually coming from. Now in this case you can see it's United States, so pretty much all the people that are searching for stainless steel juicer online are from the United States. So that tells me that if I was choosing a domain name, then I'd probably choose a .com, .net or .org. Now sometimes you will see different countries listed here, so you might see, for example, United Kingdom. Now if you saw that, then you may consider actually not going for, say, a .com, but actually going for a .co.uk. So you're basically telling Google that you're really targeted at the UK, and that would help you because most of the people searching for your term are in the UK. And it's the same, if it was Australia, then you might choose, say, a .com.au extension for your domain name. So some great information here. We're basically looking for the overall trend to make sure it's stable or rising, and just have a quick look at the regional interest. Okay, so the next thing that I like to just take note of is actually seasonal trends as well. So the most obvious example of this probably is Christmas. Now again, just an example, and I'm certainly not suggesting that you set up a website, you know, christmas.com or something like that, because it's far too broad. You would need to focus in very much in a specific area. But just to show you these seasonal trends, if I click search, okay, now we've got some headlines here, so I'm actually going to uncheck this box and just remove that so we can have a better look at the chart. So you can see right from 2004 onwards, as you would expect, of course, the trend of people searching for the word Christmas in Google really spikes towards the end of the year, and of course it reaches a peak in December, and it happens year after year after year. So, you know, what I'm saying here is that just take note of this and have a look at each year to see if there are any spikes in that. Now, of course, it may not be that it, you know, spikes in December. Now, a good way to see that is actually to put in lunch boxes. Now, you might think that's a strange thing to put in. I'm actually involved in the lunchbox niche, that you may already know that. And the reason is, it's one of the first niche websites that I actually launched online back in 2010. Probably for sentimental reasons, I haven't sold it or got rid of it or anything. Again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you go into the lunchbox niche, because there's not, you know, you're not going to get rich, I don't think, from doing that. There is some money there, but it's it's certainly not a fantastic niche to monetize. You know, lunchboxes are pretty cheap, right? So you're probably not going to rake in the big bucks. But as I said, it's a website that I've had for a long time, so I know a little bit about this niche. So anyway, let's put lunchboxes in there at the top and click search. And again, I'm going to remove the headlines. Now again, you see a clear seasonal trend here. So you can see spikes up here, but these spikes now are not in the end of the year, are they? They're actually in the middle, or specifically in August. If you look at the top right of the chart, you can see that each spike is in August. Now what's happening here is that the spikes in search volume, or the spike in the trend, is that actually corresponds to the back to school season in the summer. So in the back to school season, basically parents are going online onto Google and searching for lunch boxes for their children ready for when they start school later in the year or later in the summer. So very interesting. You know, it's always worth checking out a few search terms related to your niche in Google Insights, because this is valuable information. You know, for example, if you were looking into this niche, say in February or March, or later in the year, before the summer, you would actually be quite encouraged, because you know there's a big spike in traffic coming. So that's a great trend to be involved in. Whereas if, you know, you're probably later in the year, maybe in November, then it might put you off somewhat, because you know that actually you've got several months to wait before you see any real increase in volume. So always worth checking seasonal trends. Now the third thing that I'd like to look at are more kind of date specific or time specific examples. Now to show you what I mean, I'm going to use another example, which is Business Ideas 2009. Now if we have a look at Business Ideas 2009, you can see that people started searching for this in Google actually kind of halfway through 2008. This is 2008 right here. And then as the year progressed and we actually got into 2009, more and more people were searching for it. So obviously what's happening here is people in 2008 are saying, well, I want to know what the new business ideas are for next year. So they're starting to search. And then obviously as the year winds on, then the popularity declines. So let's have a look. We'll change this up here to Business Ideas 2010. We'll go a year later. Now again, similar trend. This time in 2009 people are starting to search for it. Then it peaks in 2010, and of course it declines, and it will continue to decline presumably as we go forward into 2011. So again, very useful information, and you could actually use this by to anticipate, really forecasting the future of what's going to be popular. So for example, you could even launch a website, say businessideas2012.com, for example, and talk all about the forthcoming business trends and business ideas for next year. And you know that later in the year, more and more and more people are going to be searching for that. But because you've got in so early, you're ahead of all the other competition and all the other markets. So you have a great chance not only of ranking on page 1 of Google, but also probably in the top 3, maybe even number 1. So very, very powerful stuff. So in a way, the whole looking at online search trends can help you actually predict the future, which is obviously tremendously powerful in any business. So the next thing I'd like to look at is actually Google Trends. Now, I don't use this so much because it's slightly less detailed perhaps than Google Insights, but the one thing I do like to look at is actually kind of a brainstorming thing, but it's for me, but it's basically this more hot searches link down here. So if I click on this, now this is quite cool because it gives you for any day what the most popular search terms were in Google. So you can see today is January the 25th 2011, and in the United States the most popular search term apparently in Google was Orange County choppers foreclosure. Okay, now I've no real idea what that is. I could probably guess, but I don't really know. Maybe something to do with real estate, presumably in California. But you know, different days you will see completely different most popular searches, and obviously a lot of this is news driven. So if there's a real news event, then lots of people will go online searching for it. But the way you can use this is actually click on this change dates link up here. And I'm just going to go back and pick any day, you know, just pure random. So let's say August the 10th, 2010. Okay, and you can see that these are all the most popular search terms on August the 10th, 2010. Now it's just quite nice sometimes to just browse through and click some random dates, and it's a great way to brainstorm because sometimes you see repeated themes going on. So particularly with, say, sports events, now you know there might be a 2010 sporting event, I don't know, like the Super Bowl or something, but you know that's going to happen next year. There's other examples, maybe in cricket, one-off tournaments, these kind of things. So you can go in and have a look and get a feel for which niches might be popular to go into, or even just so you can write a particular blog post on a particular topic that you predict will become popular in the future. So we've covered 3 things. Firstly, we looked at checking for rising or stable trends. Really important to do before you go into any new niche, and it's something that I always check for almost religiously before setting up a new blog or website. Then we looked at checking for seasonal trends. Can give you a real insight into when you should expect more traffic throughout the year and when you should expect less. Particularly important for certain kinds of niches, this is. And then finally we looked at kind of a brainstorming technique, and we looked at how to brainstorm new niches and new ideas using the hot searches link in Google Trends. And that's just like a fun thing to do, if nothing else really, but it can generate some really interesting ideas. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, then please do leave me a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. And with that said, thanks very much for watching. I'll see you very soon. This is Rob Cornish from GainHighGround.com. See you later.